Down a darkened drive, you'll find their candlelight. From a widow's peak, you'll see it burning bright. Through the double doors into their dusty tomb, you'll feel eyes from paintings follow room to room. On the creaky stairs, you may think twice, as you tell yourself those bangs are mice. In the upstairs hall, you'll see shadows dance. There's a light from the candle, this is your only chance. You run and you cry as you curse this dark night, only to find at the end there's no candlelight. Instead, there's some headphones you put on full of fear. When suddenly it's every nightmare rolled into one that you hear. And it says, "Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we are in December.
We are.
It's a Hallmark Channel and Christmas caroling, crazy, fairling, dime a dozen, ding-dong, merry-go-round of Christmas sweaters.
And we put our tree up.
We did. And we had a prettier tree than we've ever had before.
Mm-hmm. We did good this year.
Yeah. I mean, things now are in the modern age of social media are measured by likes.
Right.
So, I mean, you can tell if your birthday was a success or not on whether or not you got more likes than you did the year before or more happy birthdays.
Right.
Or at least that's how it's been for the last 8 years or so. So our Christmas tree got a lot of love. Mm-hmm. A lot of love. We put a lot of love into the Christmas tree.
We did.
Yes.
I especially like your contribution at the end.
Oh, go ahead.
The tinsel.
The tinsel. I don't call it tinsel. I call it icicles.
Icicles. Well, it says icicles on the package, yes.
Yes. So
but our tree is beautiful with them.
Yeah, it made a big difference, didn't it?
It did. I have to admit, I'm not much of an icicle person normally. But, once you got them all on there, it's really pretty.
It's like most things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once you give it a try, it's actually kind of nice.
I guess I can agree with that, yes. You win on this one.
Just remember that if you try it, you might like it.
Mm-hmm.
So just that whole thing.
Just throwing that out there.
No, I'm just saying that could guide your life in a much better way.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. 2 weeks later, Stacey Edwards is with the pool boy. You told me to try it. So yeah, we're at the 1st of December, and it's already very much Christmas on nitro fuel.
Mm-hmm.
We're going crazy around this house because I'm surrounded by people who really love Christmas.
Yes.
But it's cool. I mean, it's cool. It's still kind of nightmare before Christmas. I mean, you guys are still creepy no matter how Christmassy you get.
That's true.
So I'm all good for it. We actually took the kids to see Santa.
We did.
And that was pretty fun.
It was.
You never know what's going to happen and how the kids are going to react, not Santa.
Exactly. Well, the way that we do it here, for those that don't know, is they have, we have a racetrack here.
Yes.
In Bristol. It's, it's Bristol, baby,
Speedway
or whatever.
And lights.
For those that like NASCAR, and they do Speedway and lights every year. And so you get to drive through and see all the lights. It's actually pretty nice.
Yes, but we don't do it normal. We had to do it in the fog.
Right.
And the dew.
It was kind of raining.
Yeah, it was raining. But you know what? I didn't have to freaking wait, did I?
No, you didn't have to wait in that. You're going to be 2 hours from this point line.
Yeah, we passed those signs. It's like, it's 2 hours from here to the gate. And we're just like,
no, it isn't.
Yeah, come in the rain. You got to come in the rain.
Well, it's kind of cool because during the driving through, you get to actually drive on the track. Like the actual NASCAR track, which banks quite severely.
Yeah, except everybody in my vehicle was like, please don't go up the bank.
Yeah, please don't drive there.
So
it feels strange. It's like you're going to fall over. I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, you could actually in that vehicle. So.
Well, at the end, you got to go to the Christmas village, and of course Santa was there, and you could go in and get your picture taken. So the kids did surprisingly well.
Yes, and it cost me tons of money as always because they had to ride everything you could actually ride,
and we had to have the hot chocolate, and the fried cheesecake. It was weird.
Yeah, it was. Don't try it. I kind of want to go beat that girl up because
that said it was delicious.
I said, hey, is this good? Because it was like funnel cake. I'd already whittled my way down. The ATM was broke. I'd whittled my way down to the last $5 of the night. And this is daddy time, right? This is daddy time. This is I get what the hell I want. All right. I've stood here and watched a stupid merry-go-round go around 4 times. I've watched these cars. I watched them go into a house of
You stood in the Santa
freaking
line.
mirrors. I stood in the Santa line. All this crap. I've taken them around this stupid racetrack with these bulbs and all this stuff. So this is my time. I'm going to get either my funnel cake or something else. So I asked this chick when I'm getting the hot chocolate, I'm just like, hey, is it good? And she's like, it's delicious.
You have to keep in mind, this is the same woman who was selling magical hot chocolate out of the little machines that you use like at the gas station, you know, where you push the button and the hot chocolate comes out.
I noticed the really cool signs. It looked like
magical hot chocolate.
Yeah, I was giving her like the benefit of the doubt that they had done some kind of spell beforehand, you know.
It was good.
I like to be cool with people because you never know, right?
Right.
I mean, they could have like it was like grandma's magical something or another. So I figured grandma's behind the curtain and she just comes upstairs. She's like, woolly, 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 and just completely like does some kind of magic stuff to the hot chocolate. I'll tell you what, you know what the magic part of that hot chocolate was?
What's that?
How freaking hot it was.
I think Grandma just filled the machine.
I've still got a burn on my bottom lip from that stuff.
How Ariana does like the first thing she did was take a big old swig
Oh my
of
God.
hot chocolate.
No, I mean, and she wakes up and drinks hot tea every morning. I mean, because she's a middle-aged 12-year-old. Yeah, I mean, every morning that girl cannot get it. She cannot get out of bed. Every girl in this house is just so freaking old. It's so funny, and it's just 12 years old, and she will not move. You talk about a diva. She will not move or talk to anyone until her mother brings her some hot tea.
She'll text me in the morning. She'll just text me with a hi. And I'm like, oh, want some tea? Please.
Yeah, so it gets her caffeine fix and all that stuff. But hey, I hit the jackpot, right? She doesn't drink any soda.
That's true.
Never had any soda in her life.
That's true.
And so it's not all bad, right?
That's right.
So I've been doing a little bit of thinking because it's December. And I, in the spirit of the old days, in the spirit of Tim, I've done a top 10 list.
Oh, bringing out the top 10 list.
Bringing out the top 10 list, but it's not a funny top 10.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Funny intro, it's funny this, but when we get to the news, it's actually serious, right? Well, it's I started with a funny list, but then I was like, maybe somebody might actually use this. Okay. So I want top 10 things for the paranormal investigator in your life.
Oh, like gift ideas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not like, I mean, when you said it wasn't funny, I thought it was going to be like super serious, like sad kind of top 10. I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
No, but I kind of want to make a sad top 10 now. Top 10 babies that didn't make it out of the hole, Oh,
God. Let's just stick with the paranormal investigator.
Like little baby Anita fell down a well in 1878. They say you can still hear her scream. Why do babies always fall in holes? I don't know.
They don't know any better.
Watch your damn babies. Anyway, this Christmas list for the paranormal investigator in your life, or one that you maybe there's somebody you go to church with that is a paranormal investigator and you want to impress him and, maybe rope him in. And
right. Or her.
Or her. Yeah, sorry. It could be you're trying to rope her in. Anyway, so in the old days of paranormal teams, it was like a singles, mingle anyway. Right. These days, I don't know how it is because, it's just the thing. Times have changed and we just do each other. So,
as it should be.
Yes. What I'm talking about is a team. Like,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, we travel as John and Stacy. Yes. We don't travel as John and Stacy as part of acronym here. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with the acronyms. Nope. There's just a lot of them. Number 10, a hoodie with your team logo or insert famous haunted location here.
There you go.
I don't mean the hoodie should actually say insert famous location here.
No, but you should have a hoodie from a famous location.
Yeah, it could be like Waverly Hills hoodie, for example.
Yes, that's something that you would enjoy very much.
Oh, I would love it.
Hoodies.
I would love it. That would be like the gift that I would wear for maybe 10 years. You never know. Number 9, laser grids.
Okay, that's
you can never have too many.
No, that's true.
I mean, and plus, the fun thing about laser pointers is you can also drive your cat crazy.
Right.
Or you can illegally point them at planes and write your name on the side of the plane before they triangulate your position.
Right, and the military comes and gets you.
Yeah.
You can't have too many laser grids. How are you going to grid the whole location if you don't have like a million laser grids?
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's something you got to have, and plus they're just fun to play with. Number 8, a new digital recorder, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many out there. You can go 360, you can go mono, you can go stereo. Personally, I really like an old school, just mono recorder.
Yes. See, that's a gift that is good, but don't get your feelings hurt if they don't use it all the time. Because I know a lot of investigators that are really attached to their, specific recorder they've used for however many years.
Oh yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff you've got on one, and you swear that this one gets better evidence than the other one. Which I mean, seriously, this is not it happens.
No, I agree. I still use a very old recorder.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I still believe that the one I had before the one I use now was amazing and got a lot of stuff. And then there's some people like that old school Panasonic DD whatever, and from years and years and years ago, but not me. I do like the one I have now. It is stereo, the main one. But we have a bunch that, we've either bought over the years or stolen from other people. And, we throw them all through because you don't mean to steal those, but those always end up in your bag.
Somehow you're just like, how do I have 6 recorders here? I don't understand.
I don't remember buying this polka dot one. But yeah, we like to throw them and have the static recorders all through the place because I can never get too much audio.
Right.
It's just like, who's going to review all this audio? It's like, it seems like such a daunting task, but I'm so happy. I'm so excited about thinking about recording and
I've never seen anyone that was so happy to sit and listen to 6 hours of silence with the possible maybe EVP in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like a treasure hunt for you.
It makes me very excited. And if you really get into it, you're going to find something. So anyway, number 7, a full spectrum GoPro.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is a bit of a testimonial. All right. We fell in love with ours. Like you can't have too many of those either.
No.
Because man, they're really cool. They film just right. I personally really push that.
Yes.
Number 6, paranormal books.
Yes. Love paranormal books.
Yeah. Now this might be more for the one when you know somebody already.
Right.
So you know what they have, but maybe you don't do it with them. But let me tell you, you get some cool paranormal books, maybe from other researchers and usually the nonfiction, definitely nonfiction.
Right.
Get something about true stories of, this or that, or not really a how-to because they probably think they know how to do it better. But, sometimes that could be cool too.
I really like the books that we like to buy about other, famous investigators, and they tell their stories and their cases and,
I like that.
Case files and things like that.
I love case files.
Love that.
Short stories, man, basically, like short, real stories. So case files, like 2 pages a deal, 3 pages, in and out.
I'll tell you another thing we really love is we love those local historical books. And every time we travel somewhere, we always look at the ones that are written by local people about their local,
a lot of times you can even find autographed ones and
historical areas. And you get a lot of insight in those books because those are local people that can talk to everybody.
Absolutely.
They know them. And you're going to tell somebody more than you're going to tell
I love you,
a
Stacey
stranger. So we have a bunch of those just lining the shelves. They're just small. They're easy to read. They're so interesting.
Yeah, and they're not, as you said, you're not going to find those in Books A Million because the deal with them is it's like the local news. We always put over local news because that's the place where you find the real dirt, right? And the local newspapers and everything. And the local books, definitely. Yes. That's a good call on that. I like that. Number 5, this is another one that's sort of a personal list here.
Okay.
Retro gear.
Oh.
No, and then you want to get really cool and get somebody to go, I should be wearing my tweed jacket right now.
With the elbow pads.
Oh, with those elbow pads. The retro gear, like circa 1970.
Right.
Maybe a reel-to-reel recorder in a briefcase.
Cool.
I'd
love to have that.
Oh yeah, to do some stuff, right?
Right.
Even like just a big old recorder with tape and stuff. Cassette tapes I read the other day are the new retro thing. You know how everybody's buying records?
Yes. Cassette tapes are expensive.
Now cassette tapes are coming back. Like buying your band's releases on cassette tape. People are loving it.
Yeah.
So the side A, side B, the boom boxes and stuff. It all comes back around.
It does. It does.
I need to go in my mom and dad's basement and get some of that stuff out.
The coolest guy ever.
Yeah. I mean, that's just like got so much cool stuff down there. But yeah, retro gear is awesome, man, and you can really get some cool stuff. I even like stuff like Sideshow type stuff. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah, really.
But like the vampire killing kit, things like that.
Yeah, just things you can put on your shelf that are great.
Right.
Conversation pieces. That
stuff you would imagine in John Tenney's house.
Yes.
Yes. That kind of
he
stuff.
Probably still uses that stuff.
Number 4, a leather-bound journal.
Yes, absolutely.
Our main thing we've talked about so many times. I won't go deep into it, but you give us a flashlight and you give us a journal, and that's going to give us a good investigation going. Stacy's really great at taking the notes during investigations and stuff, and going back, it's fun reading that stuff 10 years later. It's really fun.
Well, I just think it's really good to record that stuff.
It helped us when we were writing our book.
As it happens. Yeah, and you don't have to use a leather-bound journal. Some people are more with if they already have a recorder, they can switch the recorder on and tell.
Yeah, but there's something about a leather-bound journal.
Something about
if you're getting a gift.
It down. Yeah, and then when you want to go back and look at that years later, instead of listening to something that you said, which I mean is good for some people, I like to just be able to crack it open and see all my handwriting and just read what I wrote, and I just feel like you can get the feelings across better.
It's something about being in the mood, okay? Like we could say, hey, hashtag mommy daddy time, right? But we're wearing our sweatpants and everything, yeah, we could still hashtag mommy daddy time, but if you're all dassied up and I am too, and we just got my bonus check and we're feeling good, and you're like, man, I made a good choice and all this stuff, it's just a little bit different because you're in the mood, right? You got the right kind of atmosphere. When I have the right gear and I'm like dressed like the paranormal, if I got my, and that's how I dress too. I mean, that's not an act.
No,
I wear a ton of necklaces. I wear my hoodies.
I get tickled because every time I go in the closet, I think of like cartoon characters, like on Scooby-Doo, like Shaggy. When you open his closet, he has all the same shirt all the way across. I feel like that's your closet. It's not all the same shirt, but it's all black. So it just looks like, hoodie, shirt. It's all the same.
Oh, and I don't even know why I buy those shirts because I cover them with a hoodie.
It doesn't matter. You're wearing it. You're wearing it. Well, and I was going to say another thing about, having the journal is when you're on an investigation, there are long periods in time where you're sitting there and you're being quiet.
Yeah.
Or you're asking questions and
hopefully. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a good time, when you're writing something down, turn on your recorder and sit there and write something and have 30 minutes of silence.
So you've brought it up, so I'm going to have to say it.
Yeah. One
of the things that we discovered years ago with the Clarks, I will say this with the Clarks, was it was a big theory of Tim and I believe, and originally, but and I think you were actually part of this theory too. But recording, that it might actually just be yours. I don't want to take credit away. I hate doing that, but recording us in our break room on an investigation, recording us with audio and video. In the room where we're watching the cameras and we're also eating our snacks.
I feel like that was a group discussion we had.
I think it's something we caught by accident a few times, and it was our best evidence every time.
I think it came about because we noticed that we got really, really good EVPs when we were doing things that we didn't want other people to know, like if we were saying something inappropriate, or if we were making fun of something, or making
we were
jokes,
like trying to out fart each other,
or just burping or being silly, and then all of a sudden there'd be like this great EVP, and we're like, crap,
like here's the secret of life.
We can't play that for anybody.
It's like, damn it.
So we thought, well, maybe, I mean, obviously spirits know what you're doing. They know why you're there.
Yeah.
What if they want to just say something when you're not paying attention.
Exactly.
You know? So
exactly. I was listening today because I'm a geek, and I was listening to some sweep stuff from some other people because I'm a member of like every group you can be in with that stuff.
Right.
So I like to listen to other people's evidence on that stuff, just on that stuff. And I was listening to some, and it was like people using this equipment, and the spirits are going, turn it off, turn it off, like that. There was a lot of those, and I thought it was really weird. Like I found like 12 of them. Yeah. Because I got curious, and I was like, I wonder how many I could find. And it was weird that they kept going, turn it off, like. You know, why did they want that? I don't know. That's a whole nother realm.
We've experienced all that weird stuff. Yeah, with spirits knowing what's going on.
But it is one of those things. The spirits do know what's going on. They do stand there right beside you, and I always have this picture in my head, and it's so funny because when stuff happens to you, you get like this visual, right? So I think, and I know we've told the story before, but I don't care. Major Grand Mansion, we were doing that paranormal tour, and we had that group downstairs in the basement, and I was getting ready to do the experiment with the spirit box, and I was going to let people hear the sweep going on, but we always record those sessions, and and I was talking about things you may hear that, and I was trying to prove to them it's not a radio. So I was like, sometimes you'll even hear them curse.
Which is not something you would hear on the radio.
It was not something you hear on the radio, and it's so great because we do record these things, and we were going back and listening to that explanation, and there's a spirit class A, EVP, that says he just said we curse.
Yeah, we've played that.
And we've played it on this show.
Yeah,
and it's still to this day. If anybody ever says. Anything about ghosts not being real, or anything about no, seriously, anything about spirits being intelligent, okay? Does that not?
It's still one of my favorite stories.
I mean, does it not just throw it all back? And the thing I love the most about it, there was nothing scary about them. There was nothing wrong or evil about them.
Oh, it's like they were just sitting with the tour. Yeah. Like they were just part of it.
Yeah.
And they were affronted that you would suggest that they, and when they said it, it didn't come through the spirit box. Like
no, it was the EVP.
It's almost like they knew better than to.
When Stacy likes the EVP hella much more than the sweep technology.
It's because I don't review it. So
and
let's record everything.
Yeah, so she likes to record. Well, no, I mean she likes that. I think you feel it's more solid, which is your. Yes. That's fine. That's your.
Yes, I prefer it to the sweep technology.
That's absolutely your prerogative, and that's fine. I like the sweep technology. I feel that I've really connected, and I get some things on there that are absolutely just amazing. And you're right, because if you're sitting there in a quiet room and it comes through, there's no saying that could be something else.
Right. Well, I'll tell you about the sweep technology, and I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but one of the reasons why I don't prefer it is because it drains me.
Right.
Makes me very tired. I can name countless sessions that I almost felt like I was going to fall asleep just from sitting around that spirit box.
Well, and that goes back to something I believe everybody has. If you're on here and you have investigated spirits before, you went on a hunt, I believe everybody has a tell, just like in poker. If you're playing poker with somebody, they may have a little jerk here or something there when they've got a good hand or a bad hand. I believe everybody has a tell on everything. And I believe that in paranormal, you have a tell that you're connecting with the paranormal. When there's a spirit right up on you, I believe that some people get a headache. Some people get a dry mouth. Some people get like Stacy and get super tired. Some people feel this amazing weight. Some people get where they can't breathe, or like a thick air, soupy type air.
Right. And I've gotten that before. Like it feels like a weight on your chest.
Right.
And you feel like you can't inhale all the way.
Right.
I've gotten that a couple times.
Exactly. And some people get, of course, the raised goose pimples.
Right.
And, I'm sure there's other things, but that's really just the ones I've noticed over the years. And I think that what's happening is when I start conducting that session, because of certain ways of communication I have with spirits in the spirit world that I don't need any equipment for, I believe they come to me like I'm a light, and you're always sitting there beside me. So I believe that what happens is they really are curious about what's happening there. They can hear themselves in real time, and they're like, "Wow," and they start gathering around, and you just get weighed down.
Right.
And I think
that could be what happens.
and maybe not, but I really think that's it. Either that, or it's causing you some kind of seizure.
We never know.
When you keel over one day, we'll know. Yes. But anyway, funny enough, all those great stories just came out of a leather-bound journal.
Yeah, see how wonderful a journal is?
So there you go. That should have been number one. Oddly enough, you think it's a segue.
Right.
But number 3 is a spirit box.
Yes.
If your loved one or your hottie at church doesn't have a spirit box, then I guarantee he wants one. Okay, because he needs one, or she needs one, Stacy. Number 2, an EMF meter, because again, you can never have too many.
Right.
And I'm going to put a slash here.
Okay.
A tri-field meter.
Right.
Okay, I gotta say it. I've wanted a tri-field meter since like 2004. It's the one piece of I've had thermal cameras.
It's so funny. I don't know why we've never bought one. You've always wanted one.
I've had everything. I've had everything. And I've never had a tri-field meter. And for some reason, and it's funny, it's like, it's not even backlit, I don't think. It's like there's so much inconvenience about it.
Right.
But I've always wanted it.
I think they're really reliable though.
It's just really, I don't know. There's something about it, and it's got that old school look.
Right.
And plus it's more mechanical.
Well, it's definitely a really good piece of equipment because you do need to make sure that there isn't random EMF just around in the house that could be causing weird feelings, before you go through all the trouble of, doing the investigation.
Anyway,
so
that's love it. And number 1.
Okay, number 1.
The number 1 thing for your paranormal enthusiast.
Yes.
Batteries.
The big pack.
There can never be. And let me tell you, if you have somebody that goes on ghost hunts like every weekend or every other weekend, once a month, not only will he or she be ecstatic with the big 20 pack of AA's and AAA's.
Right.
Their kids are going to be really happy because they're going to be like, "Daddy, can you put it back in my toy now?"
Let me add something onto that too. Also, if you are buying them batteries, perhaps buy them a little plastic container to put the batteries that have been drained on an investigation. That still might work.
Yes.
Later on, because everybody has their gear with like random batteries just laying around because you don't know that those are really dead.
Yeah, because you're getting ready to go up to the 3rd floor, right?
Right.
So you're like, "You got fresh batteries? No, we got to take them out." Good call, man.
And they're just laying around everywhere. So I can't tell you how many times I've opened our equipment and
land
like
of misfit batteries.
Like the box rattles, and I'm like, what is that? And I'll open it, and there'll just be batteries laying around everywhere. It's great.
My God, the batteries. I mean, seriously, the batteries, right?
I think paranormal investigators have kept battery companies in business.
They've had to. We should make a special paranormal battery.
There you go.
Like that's one that's shielded from ghost.
I don't know if you can do that.
Well,
maybe.
If it was able to shield from EMF, I'm just trying to think. Wouldn't it be interesting? If you could like maybe do something to shield it and to protect it from, possible drainage.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you can.
I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
It's a good con.
Yeah.
I mean, you get away with it for a year or so.
Maybe you just have to like have a portable charging
when
thing.
They call me about it, like when the first person calls me about it, after we've bought a bunch of Duracell and put stickers on there that says like "go stop" or like "stop the ghost" or whatever. After we put a sticker on all these batteries and we sell them for like $100 a battery,
right,
we get the first person call us about their battery draining on the first night. When they call, they're going to be like, we bought this battery and it was supposed to not drain like the other batteries. I'm going to be like, "Yes, sir." And they'll be like, "Well, what's the problem, sir?" "Well, I mean, it drained the first 5 minutes." Right? You're telling me that your battery drained within the first 5 minutes. "Well, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Just like all the other batteries." And that's when I would be like, "Oh my God, sir, get out of the house. Get out of the, hey, sir, you need to hang up the phone and get out of the, you have a demon." But I'm not a con artist. So
right.
I wouldn't do that. I might do it just to have fun now.
Oh, Lord.
You know, maybe we should put that as part of our Paranormal Sideshow, like, you know, like our levels on the Patreon.
Right, some non-drainable.
Yeah, just as a
batteries.
just for fun, like
a joke.
Like as one of the levels, you get our non-drainable batteries with it. With just a sticker we put on some other batteries.
We can just make a card with some really super fine print that claims that it may still drain in the presence of certain types of spirits. There you go. That awesome, covers us, right?
That's so awesome. I'm gonna get some stickers and I'm going to re-sticker some batteries. Not even good batteries. I'm gonna go buy some Rayovacs. You know, because when you're at Walmart and you're like poor. Like for the poor paranormal investigator, and you're sitting there and you're like, well, there's the Duracell, those are $29. There's the Energizers, you know, and you're like, oh, look, honey, their Rayovacs are $1.99, and it's like, how much different can they be?
You know, I bet ghosts are happy as can be when you come in with some old Rayovac batteries. They're like, shh, I could do 900 of those easy.
Let Junior get it.
Thank goodness they didn't bring the Duracells.
Are you kidding? I think the batteries are like they're crack. They're probably really upset. It's like near beer. they're going in there.
They're not even gonna come out for that.
They're like, oh, he brought the cheap stuff again. We're having too much fun too early on.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
Just like the fun you find at ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your address to find out everything batteries. Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. There's a lot of dead batteries there. Instagram, Hot Dead Battery Dam. It's John and Stacey Edwards. And on the tweeter, I saved it for last because there's the most dead batteries on the tweeter. It's at Sideshow97. And be sure to go to patreon.com/Paranormal Sideshow because that's where you can save a spirit. That's right, folks. If you join our Patreon now, there could be a spirit out there that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to get some John and Stacey love. And we like to love up on some spirits. I was trying to do like a TV preacher.
Right, I got you.
You know, no, actually, all we do is put it all back into the show. We really want to get some more cool stuff and some better equipment and keep upgrading until we sound like Joe Rogan and Stacey looks like Joe Rogan. And, you know, so we're going for the full transformation here.
Right.
Well, no, we're not going for the full transformation. I'm talking about on the equipment.
I was just gonna let that one go. Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna.
On the equipment. On the recording equipment.
Yes.
Not the equipment. I'm very fond of the equipment and don't want it to go anywhere. But on the Patreon, we have all kinds of levels, all kinds of cool stuff, and soon we will not only just have cool stuff on there, but we're going to have even cooler stuff because we're going to have our book that comes out in a couple of months. And we are also going to have the rechargeable batteries, the non-draining batteries.
Non-draining.
We got to come up with some cool name. If you guys got any ideas that are funny for the non-draining batteries, we're totally going to get some really good stickers made to put on the batteries. And we may even get a pack. Like some kind of pack and a label and stuff,
right.
and just have some fun with it, because that's just something fun to put on the shelf.
Yes,
and
I agree. Show
some other people at some point, and you know, just con your friends, even just sell them to your friends for $50. But anyway, we have some cool stuff going on today. We've had some really big stories, and of course, this is our new every Wednesday. So it's going to be your Sideshow Wednesdays. Just remember that. Maybe we need to do a hashtag, right? Hashtag Hump the Sideshow. Just so you remember it's on Wednesday.
I don't know if I like that one.
What about Sideshow?
We'll work on it.
What about Sideshow Hump? You know, come to think
Maybe
of it.
Maybe you should say Hump Day.
No. Come to think of it. My granddaddy was a hunchback, so I could say this. The Sideshow Hump might not be the best thing you want to look up, right?
No, I don't think I want to hashtag that.
That's kind of like hashtag bearded lady. I mean,
right. I hate it when you accidentally search things you didn't mean to search, because it's something in your head, it's something innocent, but then when you search it, you're like, oh dear God, what have I done?
I know it and it happens way too often with us, because we're actually so innocent, and so much stupid Freudian stuff comes out of our mouths. Anyway, with all that said, we got some cool stuff. Stick around. It's time for Stacey Edwards and some paranormal news. She's the GOAT of paranormal news, traveling the globe to find you the stories you didn't know you needed to hear, and the stories she knows you'll never forget. It's time for Stacey Edwards and paranormal news.
All right, so let's get to the news.
But we got to talk about something.
Okay.
So the whole looking things up that we were just talking about. By the way, I hope everybody liked the new intro.
Yes.
So to look at things up, you got to tell the story.
Okay, so a while back, I was trying to find some leg warmers for Ariana that had cats on them. And I mean, I don't know, I was looking for socks or something. For some reason, I searched cat leg warmers, because that's an innocent thing to search. And I was looking for leg warmers in the shape of a cat. And I ended up getting all these weird pictures of cats wearing leg warmers, and that is not a nice look for a cat.
Wait a second. You said it wrong, and it made it even funnier. I'm sorry. You said you were looking for leg warmers in the shape of a cat.
Well, I mean, I had cats on them, like with a cat head at the top.
But yes, you're looking for leg warmers with cats on them.
Yes, and I ended up getting pictures of
cats wearing leg warmers,
which is very disturbing. Yes. I know it doesn't sound like it is, but it is. So
I want a cat wearing leg warmers.
Just be careful what you search for.
I'm excited about this news, so let's.
All right.
Let's.
Okay. So the first story we're going to talk about is about all the strange waves that went all the way around the world, basically rang the earth like a bell.
Yes.
And this was a big story.
Huge.
Yes. So this actually happened. Happened on the morning of November 11th. And
11/11.
Yes, exactly. So the seismic waves began roughly about 15 miles away from this French island called Mayotte.
Oui.
And that's sandwiched between Africa and the northern tip of Madagascar. So they know basically where it originated.
I wonder if they found any silicamps.
And I don't know. They didn't mention that. Maybe.
They did find one of those off the coast of Madagascar.
So the waves...
It's the only thing Madagascar's ever done.
The waves went across Africa and went over the oceans, went across Chile, New Zealand, Canada, even Hawaii.
Wow.
It was like sensed in Hawaii. And they didn't just zip by, they like rang for 20 minutes, but nobody actually felt anything. It was just picked up on the monitors.
So, I mean, it originated on this island.
Well, near the island.
Okay.
Like under the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like 15 miles off the coast.
So under the ocean, and it was just like radio waves?
Well, no, like seismic waves.
Okay, seismic waves, almost like an earthquake.
Almost, yes. And so in this article, they're talking to Stephen Hicks, who's a seismologist at the University of Southampton. And he was talking about, if this had been a normal earthquake, what would have happened is you would have had primary waves and you would have had secondary waves, and then you would have had the surface waves like this was at the very end. And those can, with very strong earthquakes, go around the earth several times. And what's weird about this is just the one type of wave. It's not a bunch of different kinds like you would see in an earthquake.
Right.
Plus, there wasn't an earthquake. An earthquake that would produce those kinds of waves would be felt, and nobody felt anything. So you've only got these waves that stayed the same frequency. They were not different frequencies. There was not different sizes. It wasn't different types of waves. One type of wave, same frequency, and it took a steady 17 seconds to repeat.
Right.
So it was just very strange, and nobody had an explanation for it. Now, the working explanation now is they're saying that it was apparently the product of some undersea volcanic activity. Maybe the magma was shifting. This is just the working theory, is
Right.
the way I understand it.
I'm wanting some kind of theory.
Right. And the French Geological Survey, they're actually monitoring it. And, they're suggesting that maybe it's a new volcanic center that's forming. And that's why, nobody knew.
It's hard to find out, though,
about
because they keep retreating.
But it's very frustrating for them because it's off the coast. It's under thousands of feet of water.
I have to quit that because you're like French, and I keep... But that makes it okay, right?
I think it makes it okay.
All right.
I guess. So, they're still trying to study it, and they just really don't have a definite answer for what has happened.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, when the story first hit, of course, they get as dramatic clickbaity as they can. So they're like,
right.
Giant bell rings throughout Earth. And that's cool.
Right.
And not cool at the same time.
Right.
Like, it's kind of like you kind of want to see it happen, but... not.
It's just there are a lot of.
Rapture
things.
sounds cool, until you start looking outside and like all your neighbors are going up, but not you. It's like, well,
it's good on paper, right?
Make another glass of tea, honey. Seems like we're going to be around. Don't worry about heating it up, though. It's going to be fine.
Well, this was just very strange. They definitely don't have a definitive answer on it. And it does say in this article that this particular island was formed from volcanic activity, but that they haven't had any kind of eruption in over 4,000 years. Like, it's not an epicenter of volcanic activity normally.
Right.
So definitely something they have to keep studying, and very strange. It's reminiscent. I'm sorry.
It's reminiscent
of that story we had a while back. Remember where there was a wave that went across the United States, remember? And you could see it on the seismic charts, and it wasn't something anybody felt.
Started in New England.
And it was the same frequency, the same strength. It didn't get stronger or weaker. I don't think they ever came up with, a particular explanation for that.
No, they quit talking about it. Kind of like that guy who disappeared while he was skiing.
Exactly.
On the East Coast, it ended up in California.
Right. There's no explanation.
Never heard about that again.
Yep. Just swept that under the rug. I wonder what that guy's doing now.
That's the craziest story we heard in 10 years. Craziest story you hear in 10 years.
Yep.
It's like the guy was literally like he started going down the hill and like they seen his skis come down and not him. It was that weird,
Right.
It wasn't that, but
right.
That's the way I always had it in my head.
Yes.
God, I wish that would happen. Not to anybody nice. But
right.
everybody.
To someone who deserves it.
Yeah, there's got to be like a butthole we can all elect, right?
Yeah, but then whoever it happens to would become famous. So
yeah, there you go.
So it's not all bad, right?
No, it's not bad as long as they come back.
Right.
Whatever happened to them in the other time, at least that could be a movie of the week or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. The bell through the world. That's weird. It's
very strange.
It's just weird. We had the huge and crazy and rare earthquake in Alaska. Now, it was roughly a month later.
Right.
So that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Because it took a while for this story to come out about the ringing through the earth. The last time this happened, it was amateurs that found it.
Right.
So we had it that day.
Right.
They were
as soon
just
as it happened.
Yeah, they were just like, oh, hey, this kind of happened, or otherwise we might not have ever known.
Right.
So the real story here is we don't know how what's going on or how often it's happening.
Exactly.
Bottom of the ocean like that, it could totally be an unidentified submerged object. You never know.
I mean, there's a whole list of things that it could be, and studying it just is very difficult because of the location. So
right.
So very cool story. All right, so let's move on. And this next story I picked up because it's a UFO sighting, but there's something really unusual about it.
Right.
So this story is about some pilots that reported a UFO sighting over Canada.
Oh.
So again, this story is pilots, actual commercial
like last week.
Airline pilots, yes. And the pilots were flying a Boeing 737.
Wow.
Big plane. And they reported that they saw a UFO. They saw a strange light. And they didn't think that it was going to crash. They just wanted to report it because it was unusual and they couldn't tell what it was. And when
they kept apologizing about it.
And when
we're very sorry to interrupt, but
and when the pilot was interviewed, he said that he saw a shining light which changed from red to green to white. And he
was it a Christmas light?
Maybe. He said that it may have been a meteorite or from a star, and he said it was probably something natural. And they
really?
they point out in this article
it's one
that
of those Canadian birds.
They point out in this article that UFO that UFO reports can jeopardize a pilot's career.
Yes.
So they're not very apt to just say, "Oh, I saw a little green man," that kind of thing. So when the pilot reported it, because of the way, he didn't want to jeopardize his career, he did just say that he was very calm about it, and he just said that it could have been this, it could have been that, but it's very strange that he saw something similar to what they just saw in Ireland.
So yeah, I was really happy when the thing in Ireland happened, because you had multiple pilots all reporting this, and it came out. They're going to do an official investigation into it. I don't know if everybody understands how big of a deal last week's story was.
Right.
On this, I mean, it was crazy because of having the actual pilots of the actual big airlines.
Right.
So this is the same kind of deal, which is really cool because of having this many credible big sightings in a row. That's happening. The thing that he's not lying about, historically, pilots do lose their careers if they talk about it.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of interviews where the face is blacked out and they're on there with the voice changer, and it's just like, I saw it coming out, and they tell the thing because they're terrified to tell it. Now, how stupid is that? Because obviously we're covering something up.
Right.
If it's that big of a deal, right? If there was nothing being covered up, do you think that these companies and these governments would want to know what this wackadoodle thing in the sky was?
Right.
If there was no cover up,
right,
would you not think that they may be worried it was another country, or maybe worried that it was an amateur that has made something dangerous or something like this? You would go after it like you don't know what it is. And I always use the same thing of, you're in bed, right?
Right.
And you hear something, going on downstairs. So, or you hear a big crash. Let's just use that, a big crash. I'm going to reach under my bed. I'm going to get my gun, and I'm going to go downstairs. And, with the intention of shooting when I don't understand.
Right.
But because something's in the house. Now, if I'm laying in bed and I just look over to you and go, it's probably nothing. There's no reason to worry about it. Are you nuts?
Right.
Go back to sleep. Then probably that would give you a little suspicion.
Right.
Okay.
Like maybe you knew what it was.
Like maybe you knew what it was a little bit too well.
Right. I understand.
And this is why this bothers me so bad. Pilots need a place to go where everybody knows their name. The pilots need a place free of any kind of judgment, a lot of anonymity, but where you still know that they're official. Whoever does the website needs to check their credentials.
Right.
Okay, 1,000%. But we kind of like WikiLeaks. We promise we're not going to ever tell who you are.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But we have all these stories from credible, big time, and we can say this is a pilot. We won't give specifics.
Right, but you could say commercial pilot.
A commercial pilot
a big
for
company.
Delta.
Yeah. Well, what gets me about this story is, like the other story, this is someone that flies all the time.
Right.
So if he saw something and didn't know what it was, to me, that's very credible that it's something. I mean, I know he was saying, well, it could have been a meteorite, or it could have been this, or it could have been that. But, if it was any of those things, he would have known, and he wouldn't have said, hey, I don't know what this is.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I really like sightings like that when it's really credible people that are there all the time.
Me too.
And can tell you what they're seeing and not seeing.
Me too. It's amazing. And I think that there's obviously an uptick right now.
There is. Absolutely. All right, so let's move on. And this story is just a little bit of an update. And this is some more information about the mysterious illness from the Diplomats in Cuba. We hadn't actually heard about this in a while.
No.
But this article I thought was really interesting because it's an article with one of the doctors from Canada, because, this is happening to Canadian diplomats,
right,
as well as the American ones. So they have this article where they spoke to a doctor, Dr. Marshall. He's the medical director of the Ottawa Hospital's Acquired Brain Injury Rehabilitation Program.
Wow, I need to see that guy.
And what they're doing is they're calling this Havana Syndrome. And this article is just about how they have had new cases of their own from their own diplomats. And I believe they're up to about 13 now.
Wow.
And how some of the people that they've been treating, while they are getting better, some of the people are still unable to work.
Oh my God.
And unable to carry out daily tasks. He said that they're suffering from the kinds of symptoms that usually appear in patients with post-concussion syndrome, although nobody's suffered any physical trauma. And that's what's so strange about it, is it's like brain injuries, like concussions, like those symptoms, but they only heard weird sounds. It wasn't like any of them actually hit their heads. So it does say in this article that some of his patients described hearing a mysterious sound like a sheet of metal in the wind, and their noses would start bleeding, and just very bad symptoms for something that, nobody can explain.
Like a sheet of metal in the wind, like something just rattling back and forth then.
Mm-hmm. And the doctor believes that, while they have no idea what this is, he believes that a lot of his patients were exposed more than once, like maybe over a long period of time. And that's why perhaps their symptoms are worse than others. Some people have already gotten better, but it's definitely still baffling them. And obviously it's still happening.
Yeah. So this is really crazy. I mean, this has become something huge. So they don't have any theories. They still have no idea. They're still just completely baffled.
I mean, it's still just the theories like the United States suggesting the microwave weapons, right, and just they really don't know for sure.
So the prevailing wisdom is still that it's a weaponized deal. Some
kind of weaponized deal is what they're thinking. But he even says, I have no idea what caused this. Because it's almost like, I think he categorized it like where you've got a high speed and you stop instantly, like you're in a car crash and everything smacks forward, and you hit an airbag and your head was not protected, and that's what the injury looks like. But that's not what happened to anybody.
A couple of years, I'm not the only one. I know other people that's been dealing with tinnitus out of nowhere, and that gets me wondering. And of course, I've always talked about the Large Hadron Collider. For people that are sensitive to the paranormal in the first place,
right?
But I mean, that's not apples for apples here, because these people are just happen to be all freaking diplomats in these places, and they're getting tested on.
Yeah.
Just very weird, man.
It's crazy. And so the Canadian government has said that any diplomatic staff that's currently posted in there, they're welcome to come home. They don't have to stay. And they're actually sending a delegation of federal officials is going to travel there next week to kind of review operations and to look and see if they can figure out, what's going on with their personnel. Like I said, they do have 13 cases now. So
I would like to, if anybody's listening right now, I would like to volunteer my services to go do a full investigation of the place, a full paranormal investigation, because you're obviously dealing with something you don't understand.
Right. I think it's been suggested that this is happening to them in their living quarters, maybe at night, or because they would spend, I guess, a lot of time there.
They're being abducted.
I think that's where they believe that it's occurring, but of course they don't really know. So
I want to do an investigation. I do. I want to go with all kinds of equipment and record and sleep there
and see what happens. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? Well, I guess you could come back with a traumatic brain injury.
Well, I've already had one. So
exactly.
Maybe it'll fix it.
So it's dangerous. Maybe it'll just revert.
We could have him look at it after I get back and be, oh my God.
This is horrible.
Has this man been a pro wrestler? I mean, come on.
That's terrible.
Unprotected chair shots.
All right. Well, let's move on. So this next story is one of our favorite kinds of stories. It's about how a discovery could possibly rewrite history.
Oh boy.
Yes. Love these.
I always picture the guy writing the history books just he's on the last page, and it's just like he's like sitting in that room. He's like,
it's like medieval times where he's painting the pages.
Well, yeah, he's like an old man. He's got a long beard, and he's not wearing any shoes, and he's got his pants on. And he's
right.
and he's sitting there, and his dog's laying on one of those little stupid circle pillows,
right?
And sleeping, and he's got a fire burning over there. And he's like, hereby Donald J. Trump, and then somebody's like, yes. Excuse me, sir. That was the government. They just rewrote history again. That's what I always picture. Every time I picture this poor bastard that has to rewrite history every single time. By
actually writing.
Yes, by actually writing. Because that's the world I live in.
I know.
And
I know.
But it seems to happen quite a bit, right?
Yes, it does. So this particular discovery is of some ancient tools, because that's usually how it is. So the discovery of some stone tools in Algeria.
Sorry, I just pictured like 4 ancient nerds.
Not those kind of tools.
It's just like, hi.
Well, what it's doing is it's casting doubt on the notion that East Africa was the, quote, cradle of humanity.
Haven't we cast doubt on that many times now? I mean, seriously. So. I thought we cast doubt. I thought we just straight up threw shade on it.
Well, these tools were found during excavations in northeastern Algeria, and the tools that date back 2.4 million years
My God.
are 600,000 years older than anything previously found in the country.
My God.
So now archaeologists believe that either the first humans spread very rapidly from East Africa, or that people emerged simultaneously across several different regions on the continent instead of just being in that one area.
Well, that would take the Adam and Eve out of it.
It says the evidence from Algeria shows that the cradle of humankind was not restricted to only East Africa. That's what they're saying. So, it's something they still have to do a lot of work and testing to confirm their conclusions, but that is the initial analysis that they've come up with.
Oh my God. Okay, again, things that John talks about that blows his mind
Right.
on the show.
Right.
I know that if you're playing at home, on the Paranormal Sideshow Home Edition. Boy, I hope there is one of those. Didn't you always want the home edition of the games you're watching?
I feel like our podcast would be a good drinking game.
I guarantee you, our podcast is a drinking game already.
Every time someone says whatever, you have to drink.
Anyway, all right. So I've chronicled this many times. A clear picture of day-to-day happenings, of what we ate, what we pooped, what was popular, what we enjoyed, what we wore, famous music, what kind of houses we built, what kind of art we enjoyed. We don't have an accurate picture for the whole world.
Right.
When you go past 1,000 years ago, it's just not accurate. I mean, that's just like the Vikings. We know that they destroyed the world, but we only have a few pieces of some sagas. I mean, we don't have really accurate. I mean, the Dark Ages are the Dark Ages because, not because we didn't have any light. It's the Dark Ages because we didn't have people writing it down. We don't have a whole lot of information about that time. But then you have the biblical stuff, and that's still just here and there. There's not a whole lot, right? But you go before that, and other than having some hieroglyphs on a wall and, this and that, you don't have very much. And even if you said, all right, look, dude, we've got 5,000 years. Straight up. We'll argue with you all day. We got 5,000 years. Fine. I'm going to give you that 5,000 years. Okay? I'll give you 10,000 years because we have things here and there that are really cool that's been written and stuff. But if you take that 10,000 years and you put that on one graph, okay, and you do the little blue thing, right? You do a little blue graph bar, up for the 10,000 years, and you write 10,000 years beside it. And right beside it, you put 2.4 million. It's not on the same page.
No.
Okay, there's no way to represent 10,000. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong? There's no way to represent 10,000 and represent 2.4 million using the scale that you use to represent 10,000.
Right. I mean, it would be ridiculous.
It's off the scale. Mm-hmm. Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And so all these years, okay, 10,000 years. The 10,000 does not even make a dent in the 2.4 million. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even make a dent. You know what? It's still 2.4 million. You'd have to get 90 more of those 10,000s to make a dent. That's how crazy this is, that they found tools where people were smart enough to make tools to do what they needed to do. They weren't just sitting there pooping in their hands,
right,
and rubbing it on the other one's face. They just weren't doing. They may have done that. My neighbor does that, but I mean, I'm talking about they were still making tools.
Right.
2.4 million. Mm-hmm. Does it not blow your minds, people? Does it not blow your minds? This is real. This is science. This is proven. This has happened. So where the F is the stories of what happened from there to here? It really bothers me. and then that's 2.4. Okay. Go back 63 more million years from the 2.4 when dinosaurs ruled the earth. I mean, it's insanity. Mm-hmm. It's insanity. And it just really, really boggles my mind how we don't, we're rewriting history because we're looking. And the more we look with the equipment we have now, we have this sonar that can look under, the Amazon, and I want to revisit that story again. I want to revisit that story on our year-end edition,
right,
where we go through our best stories of the year. Mm-hmm. And I really want to go through that one again because of how the Amazon has not always been this mysterious jungle, how it was a civilization before, all this stuff, just really crazy stuff when you really start. If you sit there and we talked about it before, if you think about eternity, as a kid, that was the one, right? That's the one. That's when you went to church, and that's when you're on your way back and you're asking your parents, and you're just like, because every kid does it. Every kid has to know, because you don't really know what that word means.
Right.
And because you get, the preacher just spent an hour and a half saying you're going to burn in hell for eternity, and it's just something you heard every Sunday, and you're just like, hey, how long is eternity? When did it begin? Like, how old's God? Who's God's dad? Does God have a dad and a mom? No, God's always been. Okay. Well, how did he start? Well, he's always been. When did he start? Well, always. Well, how did Jesus come? Well, that Jesus is his son. Well, when was Jesus born? Well, he was born to Mary and Joseph. No. I mean, before that, was he with God? Well, yeah. When did he come along? Well, forever. So he's a son, but he's always been with his dad. Yes. And what about the Holy Ghost? Same thing. I mean, it's just, that's just a kind of representation. And so Jesus and God have always been. Yes. So eternity is, they're always, my answer was always, there's no beginning. There's no beginning and there is no end. So if you go to hell, you're going to go to hell forever. Okay. So I was like, as a kid, I was like, so I get to live 70 years and then out of that 70 years, if I'm good or bad, that's going to put me forever. Like this whole, there's no end. So that's a lot of years. I remember this. I remember talking about this. And I was like, so this little chunk is going to decide all these like unstoppable years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh. and the preparation for this is the fact that there's 100 different churches, and I didn't know there was 1 million.
Right.
And so are we going to the right one? Well, yeah. How do we know? Well, we just know. Okay. Does it say somewhere that this is the right one? Well, we do exactly what the Bible says. Okay. What's everybody else doing? Well, they're not doing what the Bible says. Why? Does it say in there you're going to like have to burn for all those years? If you don't, yeah, it says that. Well, then why would they not do it right? I mean, if they're waking up on Sunday already and having to come to church,
having to get ready and all
having
that.
to get ready, why wouldn't they do it right? Well, they just don't. Okay. I don't understand. And to this day, I don't understand, but that's a whole nother story. The whole eternity, like all those years is one of those mind boggling.
Yes.
You know, so that's like that. That's where that boggles the mind and blows your mind on that kind of stuff, man. Just, I love that. I love those type of things though that really get you thinking, you know, but I just don't know sometimes when we do stories, if people really wrap their head around
what it says.
2.4 million, you know, because it's ridiculous.
It is. This is a very long time. All right. So let's move on to this next story. It's about another discovery.
Okay.
And it's about British researchers who claim that the lost city of Atlantis has been found in Spain.
Wow.
So this is not the first time that someone has come out and said that they've found where they thought the lost city of Atlantis is. And of course, this particular study has met equal criticism.
The lost city of Atlantis being found possibly, and how they built Stonehenge.
Yes. It's like
Once a year.
most controversial things.
Yeah.
Yes, but I want to give it its fair shake. So this is a firm called Merlin Burroughs, and it's a firm of satellite experts. And they say that they've spotted remnants that match the descriptions in Plato. The firm promises that it can find anything that has been lost, forgotten, or hidden with pinpoint accuracy.
Wow,
because they're
like
satellite
what we're talking
experts.
about, yeah.
Yes. So Bruce Blackburn, he works with the company. He said that they've got a body of evidence that they've presented. They have a whole host of proof points. Like they feel like what they found matches up with the descriptions in the old texts and things like that. And they're quite happy. He said they're quite happy for people to take a viewpoint on it, either agree with them or disagree with them, but that they've released the information. They've got some films, and they accept that there are going to be people that think that what they've got is just a load of rubbish.
Right.
So what they did is they used aerial photography and satellite data, and they matched it, back with the Greek texts, and they actually went and visited the site. Like they didn't just look at it on satellite. They went to the location. And they say the specific location is in Spain's present-day Donana National Park on the country's southwestern coast near Seville. Now, if you look at this article, there's actually pictures of the area. And they say that they've observed matches up to descriptions in Plato's dialogues, and that what appears to be concrete at the site is like 10,000 years old.
Wow.
So they've gone and looked at the location, and they feel like they found what they say are the remains of bases of ancient towers and the ruins of a huge temple that's close to what Plato wrote about. So, like I said, it's meeting a lot of criticism. A lot of people don't feel like that what Plato described was a real thing.
Well, I mean, that's what they thought about Troy until...
Exactly, until that was actually found. I think the argument is that when Plato wrote about it, it was something that existed before he was even born, and he was just writing from what other people had told him.
Absolutely.
So, that is a legitimate claim but what if this is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you never know.
And it's kind of like Troy, right? I mean, forever people thought it was just a legend, and it was just the Trojan horse and all that. They just thought it was part of Homer's Iliad. It was fiction,
right?
Until it wasn't. Until they found it. I mean, people were searching always because people do that. They got romantic. It's like looking for King Arthur, right? So, it's fiction until it's not.
Exactly.
And so it's one of those things where Atlantis has been written about and has been fantasized about and has been romanced so much that why not? Right?
Right.
The more and more we do this, the less and less I believe that anything that was written back then was fantasy. I don't believe, personally, I don't think the sagas are fantasy.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, you got to go with this. And this is another one of those blow your mind things with just the timelines. Because we've been around a long time, right? Humans have been around a long time. But it wasn't until 1765 that the first horror novel was written. Okay? So we didn't really get into the fiction to the point of writing a horror novel
right
until 1765. And it was called The Castle of Otranto. It's just one of those things that I find interesting.
Right.
It always has been. That's just like when we got the first dinosaur bone. It wasn't so long ago.
Right.
It wasn't so long ago. So we just were writing horror fiction in the 1700s, okay? So we're supposed to believe that all this stuff 1,000 years before that or whatever, these ancient writings and these amazing writings, right, are just all fiction. That they spent this time and used their uncle's teeth to chisel into a granite and spent 29 years to be able to write 4 words to because they wanted to make something up. I don't buy it.
Right.
So I think most of the stuff that's told, or at least written down, and some of the spoken word stuff, I believe too. That has a little bit telephone game to it, I'm sure.
Right. And a little bit, maybe a little bit of embellishment here and there.
Of course. It's another part of the human condition. But anyway, interesting stuff.
But yeah, it's a cool story, and I'll link to it. Like I said, there's pictures there where you can look and see, and just judge for yourself what you...
As always, you decide.
Yes. All right, let's move on to this next story. Okay. I'm really excited to do this story. Do you remember last year? We did this very strange story about an island off the west coast of Guernsey. And they found this unusual grave that was done in medieval times. There was monks that lived there. And in the grave, they found the skeleton of a dolphin. Do you remember that story? You do remember that, don't you? Well, for all the things that you wouldn't expect to come up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For all the things you would expect to come up in a news story.
Right.
Here's another news story from that island. Okay. So the island is called Chapelle d'Amhue. It's very small. It used to be a bigger island. Now it's very small. It's like 10 meters across today. The high tide comes in, it cuts it in half. It's just a little place, but they're excavating it. The archaeologist is out there. And, last year they found the odd, grave with the dolphin skeleton, buried in there. And they couldn't figure it out because it was right there next to the ocean and, dead dolphin. Why didn't they just chuck it in the ocean? Right. Still have no idea what that was about. Right. So recently, very close to the dolphin grave, they have found the grave of a man that was buried, but he has no hands. A handless man. No idea.
Did the dolphin have hands?
No, he's a dolphin.
Yeah.
No, the archaeologists believe that this was not buried at the same time
you love
as
this
the
place,
dolphin.
don't you?
Yes, it's so unusual. They're not the same date. They don't date the same.
Yeah.
This man was buried past the time when the monks were there. I think the working hypothesis right now is that maybe somebody died out at sea and washed up, and whoever was there just kind of dug a quick grave and put him in there just so he wouldn't wash back out to sea, but don't have any idea why he doesn't have any hands, and no idea who he is or why he was buried there.
That dolphin
Very
thing
strange.
is still strange.
The dolphin
I mean, the
so
dolphin
strange.
thing, I'm sorry, I can't get past the dolphin thing again. Okay, so
during the Middle Ages, when there was reclusive monks on the island,
we know that dolphins are very close to us.
Well, they're very smart.
I mean, dolphins are very close to humans.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I've actually seen or read theories of dolphins being hybrids.
Right.
Like that's actually something people think. Yeah. Some people think that.
Right. I just wonder if that dolphin that was buried there could have been like talking and stuff. You know?
I mean, you never know. There is a reason why they gave it a proper burial.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be crazy if it like, you know, if that dolphin was like one of their mates and I mean, seriously, I think I said this before, but
right. I mean, they were very reclusive.
Yeah.
Monks.
I mean, if anybody has time to teach a dolphin how to talk, or maybe the dolphin taught them how to talk. I don't know. It's just crazy. I think more needs to be done with the whole research with the dolphins.
Yes. Well, I feel like, I mean, they are still searching this island and doing archaeological stuff there. So maybe they're still trying to figure it out. Who knows? They might find something else on the island that relates to the dolphin.
Yeah.
You never know. But I thought it was really strange that they did find this other unusual grave that's also unexplainable in the same vicinity where they found the strange dolphin skeleton.
I really love the fact that they buried a dolphin. I think I said before I wanted to go bury some crazy stuff, like just
so people can dig it up in 100 years and go, what the?
Just get like a really the nicest mausoleum ever. You know, the Trump Tower of mausoleums, and just make it so grandiose, and that you know it's going to stick around, but it's going to get covered up like everything does. So
right,
you know, in 10,000 years, they're going to open it up, and you know, I want to have a beaver in it. just a beaver.
I was going to say turtle.
Well, you know, the beaver, at least give him a little suit.
Right.
Like when he dies, let's put a little suit on him.
You got to put little things in there like jars and like little statues of the beaver, and you know, things like that.
like statues, like mini statues of him, like giving sermons. and
maybe something that looks like it was written with very scratchy handwriting.
Yeah.
And, like a journal, the beaver's journal.
Yeah, and like a castle made out of like river wood.
They'll be rewriting histories. Beaver used to be able to talk.
Oh God, wait a second. Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool.
That'd be a funny prank. Although you wouldn't be around to see it come to fruition, it would be funny. You would know in your heart that it was
I don't get
funny.
to see most of my jokes come around to fruition. You have no idea the things I set up for people to find later on. It's a little thing. I laugh about it. Like, I can set it up and I'll laugh about what's going to happen in 10 years when they find it. I write little notes and stick them in walls. I do. Like, we've talked about that before.
We have.
I have one of my stores where there's a fake wall. And you could move the plywood out of the way, and you could actually go in there and hide if you wanted to. It's probably 10 by 10. I mean, it's a big room actually, but no one knows about it. They don't see it.
That's weird.
And and I found it from horsing around.
Right.
But it's I wrote like something in there just for people to find, and I love stuff like that. It's just.
All right, so let's move on to our next story. It's a space story. It's about the Curiosity rover.
Oh, boy.
Now, NASA just landed their InSight launcher on Mars. It's like the first probe to reach Mars and land successfully since Curiosity.
Yeah, the InSight's cool.
The Curiosity rover is the one that's making news today.
Oh, wow.
Because it spotted some kind of, quote, shiny object on Mars, and NASA is not sure what it is. Is
it the InSight?
No. It's not the other rover, I'm pretty sure. There's pictures of it. In a mission update that was posted recently, NASA noted that Curiosity is drilling at a place called the Highfield site. And it's going to get a further look at 4 samples, and including this one that's kind of shiny. And they believe that it could possibly be a meteorite because of its shiny chemistry, but they're not sure because, you know, it could be deceiving the way the light's hitting it, or, you know, any of those things. So they actually admitted that they missed it in a previous attempt, but they're going to try and get the rover to use its little chemistry instrument to get a sample and try and figure out the composition and what it is.
Do you think scientists call their things, their little chemistry instruments?
I think so. I think that's the technical term. They just turned it into like letters. It'd be the LCI, the little chemistry instrument.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I was trying to go something long there.
So there's 3 other targets that are going to also get special attention, but they weren't shiny like this one, so they didn't make the news.
Who cares about those other ones?
There's one that shows an interesting dark colored coating. They're not sure what that is, and you know, The other two, they didn't mention what they look like, but they're going to get the samples, and hopefully Curiosity can give some insight into what this strange, shiny object is.
Curiosity picked up its damn game, didn't it?
That's right. It was like, it saw that Insight Lander land, and it was like, oh, crap.
Yeah. It's like, well.
You know what? I bet Curiosity knew about Insight coming, and it was like sandbagging this stuff. That's why they didn't find it before. They're like, we didn't see this before. It's because Curiosity had its little foot over it. It was like, there's nothing here. No, I'll just find this later.
It's a little foot.
When I have some competition.
You're ridiculous.
I'm sorry. You described an entire scene where an old man was writing history in a book, and you're saying that I'm ridiculous.
Okay, touche.
All right. Well, as we're doing space news, let's just do this next NASA story.
All right.
So this is a story about how a NASA scientist claims that Earth may have been visited by aliens.
Really?
Yes. And I got this story because this scientist says something that we have said. And I thought it was so interesting that it was in a news story. So in a new research paper, Silvano P. Colombano,
this sounds like somebody listened to our show,
who is a computer scientist at NASA Ames Research Center. He's also a professor, and he theorizes that intelligent life may not be what we are used to and may not necessarily use the traditional building blocks that humanity is accustomed to, such as carbon.
Right.
Wow, I wonder where I've heard that before.
Yeah, right.
Huh. So he wrote it in a paper, and he said, I simply want to point out the fact that the intelligence we might find and that might choose to find us might not be all produced, by carbon-based organisms. And, we have to drop our assumptions of what we're looking for.
Yeah, because we have no idea.
And perhaps, he also suggested that extraterrestrials may have already figured out a way to be here, maybe not in the way that we think, but, it's totally possible.
Yeah, sounds like he's trying to drop some truth nuggets.
He's trying to slip them in there and saying things like could possibly and perhaps and that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's a very interesting story, and I'm going to link to it. It's much longer. I've summarized. So definitely go and read everything that he had to say. But I thought that it was really interesting that this is coming out now after we've already talked about how, everybody's talking about finding life and they're looking for the specific building blocks that make up humans.
That, my friends, is a scientist who is not baffled.
Exactly. He gets it.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe this is different. Maybe it's different. Maybe it doesn't fit in the box.
Maybe it doesn't fit in this little thing we've come up with and just something we sit around and theorize and just came up with,
Right.
Just get out of here. You're basing the entire universe and the basis of the entire universe's life is based on what we know. Mm-hmm. And what we know is like 1/1,000,000th of the universe.
Well, I think,
you know what I mean?
Even our stories tonight have proved that we don't know what we think we know.
No.
So
we don't know Jack. Seriously, we don't know Jack or any of his sisters.
Exactly.
All right.
So while we're on the theme of scientists that may be thinking correctly, let's just do this story. This is about the Harvard scientist that wrote that paper recently about the interstellar object, saying that it could possibly be a light sail and that sort of thing.
Is he dead?
No, surprisingly not. They actually theorize and they believe that there should be hundreds of those interstellar objects that are identifiable in our solar system, in addition to the one that we've already seen.
Right.
And so they've been doing this study on some objects that are in the solar system that are called like Centaur-like objects. And those are the things between Jupiter and Neptune that orbit around, that are stuck in our gravitational, pull, are not necessarily from our galaxy, are interstellar also.
Right.
Could possibly be interstellar, but have gotten trapped. And, they just have wonky orbits because they're stuck in that strange
They weren't
area.
able to shoot around like this one was.
Right. And they claim from the research that they've done that there should be at least 66 possible other interstellar objects ranging in that same size as the one we saw in our solar system already, and that they already have 4 potentially interstellar objects that they've picked out.
Right.
That they want to do further testing on. Now, they're not saying that they are definitely interstellar objects, but I think they meet all the criteria, and they, act weird, and they feel like they could possibly be unnatural.
That's weird.
Yeah, so they're really taking this study, to the next level. They're actually looking at things that are already in our galaxy that maybe don't belong there.
That's really strange that all of a sudden that, they're looking at those like that.
The only downside to this is that they say that these potential interstellar objects should be detectable by the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, or the LSST, because that's how everything's named. Yes. And that the first light of that is not expected until next year, and it's not going to be fully operational until 2022. But these particular objects that they want to study, their orbits only bring them near Earth, like every 20 years or so. I mean, it's going to be like 20 years before they can get a good picture of it anyway.
Right.
But they are already working on making, a list of which objects they feel like need to be studied. So
wow,
they're definitely continuing this interstellar object.
So 20 years, we're going to get a big picture of a space bus with all these alien asses in the windows.
I feel like,
because they're going to have all that time to get ready for us. Be like, hey.
Well, I feel like in 20 years, we're just going to be able to go. I mean, we're already progressing towards our space travel of our own.
That one guy, though, is going to be in that room. We're gonna have colonies on Mars
with a camera waiting to take the picture.
Well, yes. and he's gonna be down there just like, all right, damn it, I'm gonna get a picture of this thing.
Well, I just wanted to mention that because we did just talk about them, and they're not giving up on their studying of it.
I think they're trying to normalize it. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like more of a cover up. It sounds like, well, because if there's more than one, it's not special.
Kind of like Tabby Star.
Yes.
Where they all of a sudden found all these we didn't know what this is for years, but look, here's a bunch of them.
Yeah, they found Tabby's navel and Tabby's toes.
And the fast radio bursts.
Yeah.
There are all of a sudden tons of fast radio bursts.
Yeah, making them normal.
Yes, exactly. That's a good point. Good point.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a few more stories. This one is interesting, and I put this in here because it's still space related, but it's also related to a moon thing, and we've been talking about the moon and the conspiracy with the moon landing, and so I thought this was pretty interesting. And this is just about a story about some objects from the Apollo 11 mission that went up for auction recently. And one of them was like a checklist that traveled to the surface of the moon that they used to check off what they needed to do before they stepped out of the craft.
Sorry.
All I could think of was like they should have put "don't erase footage" on the bottom of the checklist.
No, it's like on the checklist, like do not lose telemetry.
Exactly.
Do not record windows showing that we are just in low Earth orbit and not actually going to moon.
Turn camera off before we remove the paper.
Do not show Stanley Kubrick.
Well, this particular checklist sold for $62,500.
Wow!
And it says it records the steps that they were to follow before they stepped out onto the lunar surface. And this isn't the only thing that has been sold recently. There was another document, the flight plan sheet that was used by Neil Armstrong, and he had to sign off on it and stuff like that.
Dude,
it was sold for $75,000.
Dude, I would be sitting there like coming up with like Kleenexes, and I'll be like, this was my dad's Kleenex, and it says he squeezed one out.
So they actually had 3 tiny moon rocks that were brought back from space by an unmanned Soviet Luna 16 mission.
Right.
And they sold those at auction. They sold for $855,000. So, they're just selling off a bunch of this, lunar memorabilia. And
is it Toys for Tots time? I mean, what are they going to do with all that?
There's actually a great interest in moon-related artifacts right now because next year's the 50th anniversary of the supposed Apollo 11.
Yeah, but I didn't think you could own
landing.
that stuff.
Well, I didn't think so either, but apparently they are selling this stuff at auction. And I thought it was really funny because in this story that I'm going to link to, they talk about this bag that this woman had bought online in an online government auction for less than $1,000. And when she bought it, it turns out that the bag shouldn't have been sold because it was part of the Apollo 11 moon mission. It was used to bring back dust, moon dust. And it got misidentified or lost or put in the wrong box, got sent to a museum, got sold online for less than $1,000. And so the woman who bought it sent it to be tested to see if the dust in it was really moon dust. And when the lab realized what it was and that it was really moon dust and that it was the Apollo 11, they didn't want to give it back to her. NASA was like, you can't have that. That's really important, even though it wasn't really important, I suppose, when they accidentally gave it away. And she had to go to court, but she did win, and they had to give back the bag. And she recently sold it for like $1.8 million.
Wow.
Yeah, so
good for her.
Good return on investment. Yeah, she like went to court and was like, "Look, I bought that fair and square," and the judge was like, "Yes, she did." But I thought it was really interesting.
Do your job better, NASA.
Well, I thought it was really interesting because we've been talking about all this, and it seems to me that if you have some groundbreaking event like we were talking about, like going to the moon for the first time, that all the things from that mission are not going to be treated so blasé. Like they're not just going to throw it in a box and be like,
the word blasé.
Yeah, I mean, and accidentally give it to some weird museum or something,
I mean,
and put it up for auction.
Didn't
online.
we do a story with the room that all the stuff was?
Yeah, it wasn't properly ventilated or something, and mold was growing in there. I mean, it was like you would think that, and I'm not saying that we didn't do the moon. I'm not going with conspiracy or not, but it seems to me that if this had really been something that had happened, that all of these things would have been treated with much more respect than they have been treated. Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was really strange. And it's kind of an interesting story that those things sold for so much, but then that they added that extra little NASA's really stupid about this stuff part of the story.
It's funny you talk about the moon and you talk about whether or not we really went. So every now and then, my mind starts going back to, I love conspiracies. And I mean, I'm very into the conspiracy world. Right. And I know I don't bring it up very much, but it just kills me. Like if you look at like one of the more taboo ones, like 9/11. And it's one of the things, I'm a patriot and I don't like to even think anything bad ever. But, Rumsfeld, the day before 9/11, talked about how the enemy was within. And seriously, he said the enemy, was within, and that we couldn't account for like, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm not reading this off anything, but like $3.2 trillion. Okay, I know it was 3 trillion. All right. And it had just disappeared, right? So then the next day, something that wasn't a plane, obviously, because they've never produced one shred of evidence that was a plane. Right. They say it was a plane, but it looked more like a bomb or a missile. Blows up the part of the Pentagon that actually the accountants were in. So the people who actually found the missing money or found that we were missing the money. Right. And all the hard documents got blown to hell.
Isn't that convenient?
24 hours after he said we lost 3 trillion. Now, that never got mentioned again. No. Okay? No. It never got mentioned again. I'm not going to talk about the towers. Right. Just from the taboo nature of it or the controlled demolition or any of that stuff. Okay. If you look into it though, it's one of those things where there's just so much smoke, it just is really crazy. And then you go like with Kennedy, right? So we just passed the 11/22, and we just passed the anniversary of Kennedy's of the CIA killing Kennedy, and and we just had someone very important in that potentially pass away. Right. Okay. So there's been stories before that all that would be released after certain people were no longer living. Right. So, and I'm not going to say, one way or another who that was, but you can do your math.
It's all kitty history.
It's all kitty history. Yeah, exactly. But, the thing with the Kennedy thing, you can go with like this or that, but some of the crazy stuff, like the CIA, right? There was like this one known international killer, just this guy that you hired that just killed people, murder. He was one of the 3 dudes, like the 3 hobos they arrested on the grassy knoll, and they later released because they didn't have anything on them. Right. One of those guys was this known CIA killer. Okay. There's so much weird stuff about it, but the weirdest thing to me has always been the bullet, right? The bullet that supposedly went through 2 people. Anytime they try to recreate this bullet, anytime they've ever tried to recreate it, anytime that bullet hits bone, it shreds that bullet to all to hell. Okay, they cannot even MythBusters tried it. They cannot do it. They cannot shoot that bullet through bone without shredding it.
Right.
And this bullet looks like it was just pressed. They've got the bullet. They've always had the bullet.
Right.
The magic bullet.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect.
Right.
And it's impossible. It's just impossible. It's impossible to reload it within 6 seconds or whatever it would have took him to reload. And there was all the things that lined up with that, because it's just happened. And I've talked about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, all this crazy stuff. But then when you start looking at the moon stuff, see, the moon was one of those sacred things for me. I just didn't want the moon landing thing to be. And could they cover up all the other missions? Like, there were several missions, right?
Right.
And could they cover it up? Why would they cover it up? I mean, yeah, we were in a space race with Russia. It was a Cold War. We wanted to be better than Russia, and we needed, because they'd already beat us to space.
Right.
And we really needed a big lift.
Yes.
We were in the midst of something similar to now. It was a lot of political turmoil, and everybody was really down on Vietnam, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. There was protests all the time. The whole Woodstock thing. I mean, that was like, if that was happening now, they'd call it a bunch of left-wing nutbags out there. What's happened to, that was the kind of world it was. So I can see where that big event could be the moon landing.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that's come out that make it look, I would like to think that it's a bit of both. Like, it's a bit of, we went, but maybe we didn't do everything. Or maybe what we seen wasn't what happened, or
maybe we went and they couldn't find a way to film it from the moon.
Yeah.
And so they just made films to show people without saying that they couldn't.
Showing it live from the moon in 1969 makes me wonder why there's places I travel to with work that I can't get a cell signal.
Right.
It makes me wonder why my Wi-Fi doesn't work as well in my bedroom upstairs as it does downstairs.
Right.
And we can
broadcast live TV from the moon.
We were able to broadcast television from the moon.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point. I mean, maybe it wasn't that we didn't go. Maybe it's just that they were trying to make it look like we had better technology than we did.
I seriously have always thought that they knew what we were going to find. That they had been able to see that there was pyramids there, and that there was ancient technology there, and that, that what was up there was remnants of our past. So they did film it in like a desert somewhere, and just like you're saying.
Right.
And to show what we expected to see.
Right.
But I mean, who knows, man?
That's true.
I'd say we'll know as soon as Russia gets there.
Most likely, yes.
And if you guys haven't listened to last week's episode, that's one of my favorite stories ever.
I did see a story. I didn't grab it because we've talked about it already, but it was the story about how NASA's talking about going back to the moon. And I thought it was funny that story came out like a couple days after the Russia story, because they're not actually going to the moon. I mean, they are, but they're doing the gateway thing that they want to build. And we've done the story on that where they want to build the moon base, off the surface and make it
once they figure out how to get there,
a jumping point to go other places. But I thought it was really funny that they all of a sudden were like doing stories about that again right after we talked about.
It's too late, NASA. I'm rooting for Russia on this one.
Like, go Russia. All right, so I got a couple more stories for you real quick. So this one's just about a new TV show that looks pretty interesting. It's an archaeology show. We love those on Travel Channel. And this is one that is hosted by Megan Fox. I knew you would like that. This is a Travel Channel show, and I believe it's one that Megan Fox actually brought to the Travel Channel because she's very interested in archaeology and mysteries and things that we're interested in, and she wanted to do this show. It premieres December 4th. And I believe the first series just has maybe 4 or 6 episodes. It's a very short first run.
Right.
But I think the pilot has something to do with Viking societies, women in Viking societies.
Yeah.
And I believe it mentioned that the second episode was something about Stonehenge. So she's really hitting some, well-known,
the big ones,
right, which is what you would expect from a new show.
Right.
But I think it'll be interesting to see somebody else's take on it, like a woman's take and, how she's going to do that and, be the
I'm
host.
interested in it and, give her a chance, because I know the first thought is Hollywood celebrity, female, I mean, there's a lot of things there for people to poop on if they want to.
Right.
I think one of the imperative parts of this story is the fact that she came to Travel Channel with the idea. If she left Hollywood for a few years herself to have children, she was kind of controversial when she was in Hollywood. So I don't know. She's always been into it. I'm interested to see what happens, and
Yes,
I will give any show a chance.
Yes.
So
I will. So we'll check that out, and then we'll let you know what we think. But cool. I like that that Travel Channel is still adding more things in the archaeological, paranormal field. So, all right, last story. This one's really interesting. This is about the Nigerian president, and apparently there is a conspiracy theory going on there that the Nigerian president is actually a clone. It's not the real guy.
Crap.
So what happened is the president, his name is Muhammadu Buhari, and he made a video denying claims that he actually died and was replaced with an imposter or a clone or somebody that just looks like him. He actually was sick recently, and he spent some time in the hospital, and they didn't really release what was wrong with him, which is not uncommon,
right,
I would think, for politicians. But a lot of people claim that when he was ill, he actually passed away, and instead of saying that he passed away, they just replaced him with a clone or an imposter. So I thought that was really crazy that he actually came out and was addressing that conspiracy theory, which is a conspiracy theory that we've heard about politicians even in our own
a lot
country.
Of people, yeah.
Yes, and
they say Paul McCartney was seen going into the hospital.
Well, he actually said that it's the real me. I assure you, he's soon going to celebrate his 76th birthday. He's still going strong, and he promises he's not a clone. And of course, that's probably what they would program a clone to say. Yes, but he feels like that. This is just a conspiracy theory. Everybody needs to calm down. It's really him. He's up for re-election, in February, so he's wanting to squash all those conspiracy theories.
Oh, of course. I mean, what a platform you can run against him, though.
I know, you can say all kinds of things.
Go home, clone. I mean, there's a lot. That's really that you could be like, he has no soul. I mean, especially if they're believing it, I would eat that up, man.
Right.
I would just be like, you can't even trust this guy.
I don't know if the particular conspiracy theory, I think some people think he's a clone.
Some
people think
an imposter.
It's another guy that's impostering him. I saw the word
impostoring
him. Is that a thing?
It is now.
That? I saw the word doppelganger thrown in there.
Jesus.
Just all different kinds of crazy stuff going on their social media over there. And so he was trying to assure them that he is in fact really him.
Yeah, that's the end of it. If he's actually saying, if the guy's on there actually denying it,
right,
then he's totally a clone. I mean, if you're on there, anytime in history,
right,
I did not have sexual relations with that intern. Anytime they're on there saying it,
right,
it's done, man.
When they actually acknowledge it.
Yeah, I hate hearing people deny stuff because every time I do, because what do you do? You ignore it.
Yeah,
I mean, you ignore stuff like, I almost let a wordy dirt out right there, but I mean, you ignore stuff with stuff like clone, right? Well, they replaced you with a clone. I'm just like, I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to say nothing about that, and it goes away because then people are like, yeah, we're kind of stupid, aren't we? I don't know why we ever said that.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you for
You're
the
welcome.
news. All right. Well, it's been an interesting show with a lot of good news. I appreciate that. I drew some naked pictures over here.
Yes, you did.
During the news, it's like important note, boobs. That's kind of how my mind works. It's like important, boobs. It's the red-blooded American way.
Yes.
But I'm still thinking about that clone and the dolphin. The dolphin and the clone are going to be in my dreams tonight, I'm sure.
Probably.
Why did they bury a dolphin?
I don't know. It's very strange. I think they suggested that maybe they were trying to preserve it so they could eat it later, but I don't see how burying it, a fish, is a good way to preserve the meat.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Well, as always, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We'll be around next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Please go to Patreon and support your favorite podcast, and then support us. We love you so much, and until next week, from my lovely wife Stacy, my name is John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out ParanormalSideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a Sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacy, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.